as we welcome the new Impact Wrestling World Champion, Tessa Blanchard. We are here in Las Vegas getting ready for shows the next 3 nights, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, February 7, 8, and 9, right here at Sam's Town Live. Tickets are still available for anybody who's curious. And at this point, I will welcome Tessa Blanchard. Tessa, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, Ross. Before we start, I just wanted to start off by saying that I'm glad to be here with all you guys. I thank you for all the coverage that you guys have all given me, and I'm happy to talk to you guys about my championship, about wrestling, and answer whatever questions you guys might have.
Well, media, at this point, we are going to open it up for media questions. *6 to get in queue. Please identify yourself and your...
Muted.
And we will roll through a bunch of questions.
Q&A session has started. To ask your question, please press *6. If you'd like to ask a question, please press 1 to add your thought. Your request has been received. To remove yourself from the queue, press *6.
Hi, Tessa. It's James Walsh from the Wrestling Epicenter. How you doing today?
Hey, James. I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. So I guess since we last spoke, the big news is that you're the first female to hold a major traditionally male World Heavyweight Championship. Was it an emotional weekend for you? What did it mean for you to finally get that 3 count, hold that world title up, and take us through the experience? How was that awesome ending to Hard to Kill?
Well, James, it was an emotional week, and my family was there and got to share that moment with me. And it had been a long 8 months that Sammy and I had been going through all of this. OVE, Sammy, they were a thorn in my side for the better part of 8-9 months. For it to culminate at Hard to Kill and for me to walk out the first ever woman to hold the Impact World Champion, it honestly just meant so much. It meant that the past 6 years of my career, they meant something. The past 24 years of life, everything has led to that moment. So it was very rewarding.
Awesome. Very proud of you. Thank you for your time, and I'll let somebody else ask a question.
Thank you, James.
Hi, Tessa. This is Stephanie from Steel Chair Magazine, United Kingdom. Congratulations for the World Championship. And as a woman, you can't imagine the pride it is for every woman, probably. What are your next goals now that you are in some ways reached the top of the mountain with the World Championship? Where are you looking now as far as the future can give you?
You know, a lot of people ask me, what's next, Tessa? What's next? What are you going to do next? They said, after you beat Gail Kim, what are you going to do next? After you win the world title, what are you going to do next? And honestly, I'm living in the moment. I'm so proud of everything that I've overcome to be where I am right now. I'm so blessed to be where I am right now. To be the first ever woman to hold the Impact World Championship is something that I never envisioned for myself because I just never thought that it was possible. But now that it has, it's very clear what my next challenge is. I'm going to have to defend the title now. I'm going to have to defend it against all comers. I'm going to have to work harder. My intensity is going to have to be equal to, if not greater, each and every single time that I step into the ring. And that's what I'm focused on right now, is facing some of the best in the world and defending the world championship against some of the best in the world, against some people that want what I now have.
Thank you, Tessa.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Hey, Tessa. Scott Fishman from TV Insider.
Hey, Scott, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. With you winning the Impact Wrestling World Championship, it seems like with Taya, also with Ace Austin as potential challengers for your championship. Looking down the road with you winning the title, do you kind of see the potential of merging the Knockouts Championship and the Impact Championship now that you have broken the gender barrier in many ways, or do you kind of see them still as separate?
Never say never. Anything's possible. I'm in this to break stereotypes. I want to grow as an athlete, and I want to wrestle some of the best in the world, and some of the best in the world happen to be females. That's just the world, the time that we're in right now. I take Taya very seriously as a competitor. I take Ace Austin very seriously as a competitor. I take a lot of our locker room very seriously because they're so talented. We're filled with such versatile, diverse talent, and there is no telling. I'm all for it if that's something that were to happen down the line, because Impact has kind of proven that we don't look at it as intergender wrestling. We're just looking at it as pro wrestling, and it might make some people uncomfortable. It's not traditional. It's not what people are used to, but it is our outlook.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
You may now ask your question.
Hey, Tessa, there were obviously some controversies around the weekend when you won the championship. We haven't exactly heard you speak about that. We've seen some tweets about that, but haven't exactly heard you speak about it. Anything you can add beyond what you tweeted that weekend?
Sure. Who am I speaking with?
Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful.
Okay, Sean. Nice to speak with you.
Yeah.
It was a very emotional weekend. It was full of highs, full of lows. I chose to step away from social media for a little bit because of all the things that were going on. But, with everything that went on that weekend, not everyone's going to like me. Not everyone's going to agree with what I choose to do in my life. I've made mistakes. I've faced challenges. One thing I will say, though, is I've never used a racial slur of any kind. It's just not in my heart. It's not something that I've done. It's not something that I will do. It's just not true. Some people, they look at social media and someone will make an accusation, someone will say something, and then everyone hops on the bandwagon. We've all got our own stories. There's a side of everyone's life, that's public, and there's a part that's private. There's a part that's portrayed for all the world to see and can be judged by anyone that's actually interested in it. And it's very unfortunate that some people resort to saying certain things, but it's just not true, and that's as much as I'll say on it, because I know who I am. People online, that's the world we live in with social media. I've faced challenges and obstacles that have enabled me to persevere to become the woman and the athlete that I am today, and this is just another stone in that step.
Did that affect you mentally going into your match? What, all that happened that weekend and some of the stories that emerged?
Sean, that weekend,
Muted.
I'm going to remember for a while, because it's a moment, it's a match, it's an event that I prepared for mentally and physically for months and months and months, and it had been built up for 8 or 9 months, I believe. So there was already a lot of emotions that go into it. And the day before, I was kind of hit pretty hard. It's something that I chose to step away from social media, to step away from everything and kind of live in the real world, because to see your coworkers and to see your peers say things about you and some things that are just not true about you, it did hit me very hard. But I'm the kind of person who I have extreme mental strength. And with my family, with my little sisters, being there that weekend in the front row to watch everything culminate at that event, It was special for me. So I knew that everything that I've been through, I was going to have to use it as fuel almost to go out there and perform to the best of my ability, to be the best version of Tessa Blanchard that I could be that night, and go out there and win the World Championship. That way, my little sister who's 12, other little girls, any younger talent might look at me and take something that I love, and I went and I made myself great at it, and they can take what they love and they can become great at it too. And that's what motivated me. I can handle almost anything. You know, not everyone's going to like you. I'm going to build my own legacy based on my work ethic, not by trying to win some popularity contest.
Thank you.
Hi Tessa, it's Joey Mills here from Sport Bible in the UK. Great to speak with you.
Hey Joey, how are you doing?
I'm really good, thank you. So I just wanted to ask, first of all, was there a point, obviously you sort of grew up around wrestling, being from a sort of a wrestling royal family of sorts. Was there ever a point where you sort of wondered why a woman had never been world champion and decided that you wanted to be the one to finally do that?
You know, I think that wrestling the guys is just something that came very natural to me because that's the way that I was trained. 6-7 days a week, I'd be in the ring with Cedric Alexander, Caleb Conley, George South, and we would train and we would train and we would train. And I was forced to hold myself to a higher standard because of that and because of my family, to do them proud, but also to find out who Tessa Blanchard is in the ring on her own. I'm a huge fan of China. I think that she's a pioneer for everything that we're doing right now. Intergender wrestling is something that happens quite often on the independent circuit, and it's so great. It's something that makes some people uncomfortable. I've said it before. It's not traditional. It's not what people are used to. It's not what people sit down with their families and watch on Monday nights. But that's what I love about it, is that it is so different. When I first started wrestling, I said that I wanted to make history in my own way, in a way that was unique to me and unique to the wrestling business. And I didn't really know what exactly that looked like 6 years ago when I started, but it's all starting to make sense to me, and it's looking a lot like right now. And to be the change, to be the face of that change, it's very special to me. And to be given the platform and that opportunity by Impact Wrestling has made it even more worthwhile.
And just one more question quickly. Do you have a message for any young women that might be at wrestling school at the moment or just starting out on the independent scene who aspire to emulate you and reach the main event level and sort of the world championship that you have?
Yeah. Just keep going. It's a hard business. It's a lonely business. It's a hard time that we live in right now in the world, but just keep going. I was talking about this yesterday when we went to the leaders in training at the NFL Alumni Association. I was talking to them about how no matter what you love, if you've got this gut feeling and this passion in your heart for something, you can't ignore it. And there's been a couple of times in life where I've had a gut feeling about something and I've ignored it, even just silly things. But then I go back and I'm like, dang it, Tessa, you should have trusted your gut. And I've learned to not ignore passion, not ignore a gut feeling. And if you know you're meant for something, you just know. And that's how I feel about pro wrestling. I knew that I didn't want to be good. I wanted to be great at it. I didn't want to be passable. I didn't want to be just good enough. I wanted to become one of the best in the world. And that's what I've worked at. That's what I continue to work at, to become one of the best in the world. And there's a lot of power in words. And if you say those words, if you truly believe them, and you can look at yourself in the mirror when you wake up every morning and love the person that you're becoming and know that you're following what God's put you on this earth to do, then you're doing something right and you're going to make it. It just, everyone's path is different. Everyone's hardships are different. For some people it might be a little bit easier. Some people it might be a little bit more difficult, and that's fine. It just means it's going to mean that much more when you get there. But if it's something that you love and something you're passionate about, I say just keep going. No matter what trials or tribulations that you face, you just keep going.
That's great. Thank you, Tessa.
Thank you.
Hey Tessa, this is Riju from Sportskeeda in India. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. So recently we at Sportskeeda, we conducted an interview with Charlotte Flair, and the topic of the four horsewomen came up. So in her mind, she says that you are the only person apart from her who can call herself one of the four horsewomen. I mean, one of the horsewomen, basically. So what is your reaction to this?
She said that in an interview, Riju?
Yes, yes, she said that.
Oh,
she said that Ronda Rousey, she said Ronda Rousey, Sasha Banks, etc. cannot call themselves horsewomen.
Well, I would say that there is a truth to the statement that Charlotte and myself are the two thoroughbred horsewomen. Being a horseman, it means you're excelling to the best of your ability. Hell, look at Great American Bash in 1988. My dad, Blanchard, Anderson, Wyndham, Flair, they all walk out in Baltimore holding gold. Being a champion, it's a state of mind. It's a lifestyle. Holding up that four is the symbol of excellence, the true symbol of excellence. And for Charlotte Flair and myself, it is birthright.
Awesome. I have a quick follow-up question. We also spoke to Taya Valkyrie not long ago, and she said that you have not faced any women for the last 8 or 9 months, and that you are scared to face women. What is your reaction to this?
Well, Taya will say whatever Taya wants to say, but I have faced women in the past 8 or 9 months, and I'm not scared to. But I will say, since I've won the world heavyweight or the world championship, that I'm a fighting champion, and I'll fight anybody, man, female. It doesn't matter to me. I'm that confident in myself, in my ability, and I'm that willing as a champion.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Riju.
Hi, Tessa. This is Nick Housemouth, Wrestling Inc. Thanks so much for taking the time today.
Hey, Nick. How are you doing?
I'm good. I wanted to get your reaction to former Impact Wrestling star Booker T's comments about your title reign, where he said it was one of the worst decisions of the company. He said, because now all the men in the company, if they wrestle her and she beats them, it diminishes every guy in the company. I mean, who's the top guy in the company now? I cannot see the man Becky Lynch wrestling Mojo or Brock Lesnar. It's the worst idea in the history of wrestling. It really is. It makes me question and wonder if somebody tried to blow this thing up on purpose. Like somebody said, let's see how bad we can mess this up.
Well, Nick, I am honored to be put in the championship picture. I'm under a contract, and I have done everything that's been asked of me to do within my ability for the wrestling fans, which is why I'm under a contract. I've done absolutely everything that I can to do to the best of my ability for the wrestling fans. That's what I always want to do. I want to compete. I want to perform to the best of my ability for the fans. The whys, the wherefores, that's coming from a different meeting, a meeting that I'm not a part of, and I do the best that I can to accomplish what I'm asked to do.
Okay, cool. And similarly to a question that was asked earlier about you and Jordan possibly, or you possibly unifying the titles with the Knockouts title, I spoke with Jordan recently, and she said that she may not be against the idea of retiring the title of Knockouts. How do you feel about that term?
Like I said, Nick, never say never. Anything's impossible. We're kind of in a time in wrestling right now where crazy things are happening. It's a great time for wrestling. Things are evolving. We're in the midst of an evolution. And I'm all for it. Change doesn't happen. Evolution doesn't happen without one or the other. And so to be like an active wrestler in the midst of all of it, it's a really neat thing to experience. It's a neat thing to watch. If you would have asked me a few years ago if I would be the world champion right now, I would probably say no, because I didn't think that was possible. But I've been put in the position where it is possible, and I'm starting to believe more and more that anything is possible. I just said it a second ago where I'm going to be a fighting champion. I want to face guys. I want to face girls. It doesn't matter because I don't look at it like that. It's not intergender wrestling. It's just pro wrestling. And some of my favorite matches have been against girls. Some of my favorite matches have been against guys. So I'm all for it. If that's something that were to happen in the future, cool. If it's not, that's cool too. Whatever happens, though, I'm all for it.
Cool. Thank you, Tessa.
Thank you, Nick.
Stephanie from Steel Magazine again. Just wanted to ask you, your family was there, your mom, your brothers and sisters.
If you'd like to ask a question, please. Your request has been received. To remove yourself from the queue, press *6.
Were they as proud of you as the other member of your family could be?
Well, Stephanie, my family has always been very supportive of me. That's my dad, my stepdad, my brothers and sisters, my mom, my grandparents, everyone. And I'm so blessed to have that because not everyone is that fortunate. But to have their guidance, their mentorship, and then after that match, just have them talk to me personally and let me know how proud they are of me and how far I've come and how I've evolved as a woman and as a wrestler through my journey. It was a very rewarding moment, not because I won the world champion, not only because I won the world championship, but because of that as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie.
You may now ask your question.
Hey, Tessa, Sean from Fightful again. It's pretty evident in your work that it always seems like you're trying to win a wrestling match, and not to denigrate anybody else's work or anything, but we don't always see that from performers. Is that something like a concentrated effort that you noticed early on, or something that you put a lot into? Because it does seem like there's not a lot of wasted motion in the ring from you. It's all like, hey, I want to look like I'm trying to emerge victorious from this match.
You know, Sean, I always push myself in life, no matter what it is. It's just my personality. I've always been that way. My mom tells me the same thing, that when I was in school, I was an overachiever. I just wanted to, do extra credit work, or I wanted to just push myself. And, if I'm going to audition for a musical, I'm going to audition for the lead role. If I'm waiting tables as a waitress, I want to push myself and have the biggest section and do the most work and even do other people's work. That way I'm doing even more. And if I'm in the gym, I want to push myself to have the best body in the gym. If I'm in wrestling, I want to push myself to the top of the mountain. It's just always been my personality. So each and every match, I'll even watch myself back sometimes with my dad or my stepdad even, and I want to pick at everything. I want to pick at every detail. I want to know how I can make myself better, because I'm always and forever going to be a student of the game. It's just the way it is. I don't know everything. I don't pretend to know everything. But if I can use the tools and the people around me to become the best that I can be, then I think that that's very valuable. It's something that I'd be stupid to not do. But one thing that I love is that I have the opportunity to wrestle some people who I perceive to be some of the best in the world. And there's no better way to learn about yourself in the ring or to get better than to go out there and just do it in front of a live crowd. And we get to do that so often with Impact and every weekend with the independents. And I value it so much. It's something that I love to my very core. It's just something that I love so much. But I think it's important at the same time to keep a balance. If you love something so much and you're giving your whole self to it, you also need to pay attention to everything that's real in the world, family and true friends, and keep that balance. Sometimes you have to step away from the light and the money and the fame, and all of it's great, but at the end of the day, if you're not a good person and you can't look at yourself in the mirror and be proud of the person that you're becoming every day, then it's all for nothing. So got a little bit sidetracked, Nick, but I am very, very proud of myself every single. I think it's important to keep that, to be proud of yourself through the trials, through the bad matches, through the good matches, through the wins, through the losses, through the constructive criticism. I'm very blessed for all of it.
What are some of the things you think you've improved on the most since coming to Impact, whether it be as a wrestler or a performer?
Oh, I love that question. Well, when I first started wrestling, I remember my very first match, and it was in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I remember being in the ring with a lady from the United Kingdom named Miss Rachel, and I didn't know where in the ring I was in the middle. I couldn't tell you which corner. I was just so, I don't know if dizzy is the right word or if I was just lost. I didn't know. It was my first time just being thrown in there, and she carried me. So to look at where I am now, I know I have evolved and I have come a very long way, and I'm proud of that. When I first started at Impact Wrestling, we were supplied with tools such as Gail Kim, Tommy Dreamer, D'Lo, Scott D'Amore and Don Callis, Jimmy Jacobs. And Jimmy Jacobs, him alone, I think, is one of the most creative minds. And then when you look at our locker room, we have such diverse and versatile talent, and all of our minds are working different ways, and the creative process is just, honestly, if you take a step back, it's very magnificent to me. So I think I've learned a lot about myself through promos, through learning to work with other people and listen to their ideas, but also take them and collaborate with my ideas to create something that's different that maybe we haven't done before. You throw in people's size differences and their style differences, and you clash with it, and it creates something cool. You're telling a different story each and every night, and I think that's what I've learned most, because Impact is the first TV company that I've really worked consistently. So I've learned the TV style. I've learned how to evolve Tessa Blanchard, the character.
Thank you.
Muted.
Hey, Tessa, congratulations. This is Mike Lano with CBS Radio and the Chronicle newspaper group. I apologize if somebody already asked this. I had to call in late. But I wanted to get your thoughts on, and I've got two questions, on really changing the overall culture of the biz well over 100 years, in that companies are now having to react to the big, huge, amazing thing that you've done, over the course of 9 months and beyond that, from WWE on down to smaller independents, dropping men's and women's labels on their titles. This is all in response to what you've accomplished in Impact, and it's tremendous for the industry.
Oh, thank you so much, Mike. I might be repeating myself a little bit from earlier, but that's okay. But I'm so proud of everything that Impact has done through Intergender Wrestling and what they've allowed me to do. I've been put in a position where I have now become the Impact World Champion, the first woman to do so. And I'm so thankful for the people that came before me, honestly. I always reflect a little bit to China because she's an inspiration of mine. And she's kind of a pioneer for what we're trying to accomplish now, but in a different way. When I first started wrestling, I was training with the guys for hours and hours and hours on end, just training because I wasn't good. I wanted to become great, but I just wasn't there yet. I messed up. I screwed up. I took bad bumps. I broken both my collarbones. I fumbled, but all of it has been to get where we are today. And so if I'm able to do what I do and become great, and anyone else is able to look at me and become great at whatever they love to do, that is the goal. That is what I want to do.
And then my last question very quickly. Ross Foreman, I told I was going to be asking this, but I've photographed for decades, since back to the 60s. So, of course, shot your grandfather teaming with Bob Geigel in Kansas City, obviously Tully and Magnum a zillion times. But you also set history at the Cow Palace prior to going to Impact on the second shows for All Pro Wrestling. You were in a tag team, so you've met a lot of guys that now have come over to Impact, in Tim Thatcher, who you were on TV with the other night, and or Thornstowe, I'm sorry, Adam Thornstowe, and you were in the tag match with Candice and Joey Ryan, if you recall, and that was kind of a big deal because that building is one of those meccas, like not quite Madison Square Garden, but it's like the Olympic Auditorium in L.A., the Cow Palace in San Francisco. Do you remember that at all, that big show?
I remember exactly the night you're talking about, Mike. It was me and Colt Cabana versus Joey Ryan and Candice, and that was such a special night for me because that, I believe, might be one of the only buildings that all three generations of Blanchard have wrestled in. My grandfather, my dad, and me. And I think the match, if I'm not mistaken, was the Brainbusters, my dad and Orange, versus the Rockers. And so for me to be wrestling in the Cow Palace, I was ecstatic. I was so excited that night.
Oh, here, last thing. This is what I asked Ross about. My newspaper, the USA Today, a couple of days ago ranked, and I wanted to ask if this is a relative at all, because there have been rumor mills saying that Doc Blanchard, a collegiate, huge amateur football player who was lauded as being on the greatest amateur football team of all time, in all the bowl games and all that, is that any relative of yours, Doc Blanchard?
I really want to say yes now. But, Mike, I'm going to have to ask my dad about that one because I'm not sure. I feel like I would know if he was, but I could be mistaken. I have so many cousins and great uncles and aunts, and we have a very big family. So it is possible, but I'm going to have to ask about that one. I'm not sure, Mike.
Yeah, threw me because it wasn't West Texas State, but I'll shut up now and let somebody else ask questions.
I'm really inclined to say it was, though.
Doc Blanchard, that was the name. All right, thank you. And congratulations,
too.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Hi, Tessa, Riju from Sportskira again. So the video of you wrestling with Sammy on the streets got some 5 million views on YouTube. Why do you think it broke the internet the way it did?
I was shocked when I found out that it had 5 million views on YouTube. I'm not really sure. That was a very cold night. I remember we were in Melrose Ballroom in New York, I think it was, and it was freezing cold after our show. And anything that Sammy and I do, all of our beef aside, anything that Sammy and I do, we give 125% into it. Whatever match, whatever backstage interaction, whatever it is. Sammy is one of the most talented people I've ever met in my life. His mind is so creative. The way that he thinks is very different than a lot of people that you'd meet. And he was also the thorn in my side for 8 or 9 months, him and OVE. And I'm not really sure why it got 5 million views, but probably because both of our passion is just so great, and maybe other people are able to see that.
Awesome. And one quick follow-up question. What do you think of Impact bringing back the TNA name at WrestleCon?
Could you repeat it one more time, Riju?
Yeah, so basically, I believe that Impact Wrestling is bringing back the TNA name for one night only at WrestleCon. So would you have a reaction to that?
Oh, yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see the people from TNA that we bring back, just to see so far who we've brought back. I'm like really, there's a dream match of mine, and I actually haven't been vocal about this or tell people about it, but Chris Sabin is a dream match of mine. And so if I would get the opportunity to wrestle him, I think that would be really cool. I'm getting to check off a few dream matches or people on my list here recently. I have Amazing Red coming up, which is another one of them. But at the TNA show, if I was able to wrestle Chris Sabin, I would be happy.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Riju.
Hi, Tessa. It's Joey from Sport Bible again. I just wanted to ask, obviously, sort of winning the world title, there's the implication there that you might be able to defend it overseas. I just wondered if you'd given any thought to perhaps defending the Impact Championship in other countries, and if there was any opponents overseas that you'd thought about facing.
Oh, definitely. I would love to defend it overseas because I love going overseas. Just the few places that I've been blessed enough to go to, Australia, China, Japan. The UK is one of my favorites. Just the fans there, absolutely incredible always. I would love to defend the World Championship there. One person I think that I would love to wrestle is Will Ospreay. We've wrestled each other before, but it was a tag match, and it was What Culture Pro Wrestling years ago. But to have a singles match against Will Ospreay, I think would be really, really cool for me.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Tessa.
Thank you.
Hey, Tessa, it's James from the Wrestling Epicenter again.
Hey, James, how are you?
I'm doing okay. I was kind of not wanting to ask this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway because I can't help myself. A few weeks ago, I interviewed Malaya Hosaka, and I was expecting her to say that she loved intergender wrestling, but she kind of gave the opposite view on that. She said she worries that kids on the playground will then think it's okay for boys to hit a girl and things like that, for the boy to think it's okay to hit a girl. What do you think of the cultural aspect on it? Because me personally, it's kind of one of those things that I go back and forth on in my own head on it.
Sure, I'm not ignorant to the fact that a lot of people don't like it. My viewpoint on it is a little bit different because I believe that there's strong style wrestling, there's lucha libre wrestling, there's deathmatch wrestling. I think there's intergender wrestling. It's a style of wrestling. Not every style of wrestling is going to be for everyone, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think that I get why it makes people uncomfortable. I understand where they're coming from. I'm not going to say that they're wrong. None of us are wrong. Wrestling is an art. Wrestling is whatever we want it to be. And it might make people uncomfortable. It might not be what people are used to. It might not be traditional. It might not be what people sit down on the couch and watch with their families every week. And that's what I love about it, is that it is different. Evolution does not happen without change. And right now we're in the midst of a change. I said it earlier in this teleconference where if I have a gut feeling about something, I'm learning to trust it and to just go with it. And if I feel passionate about something, then I have to trust it and I have to go with it. And this is something that I'm passionate about. And I'm not going to tell anyone else that they're wrong. And I'm not going to let them tell me that I'm wrong about it. It's something that I love. I don't look at it as intergender wrestling. I look at it as just pro wrestling. And I think that there's a way to tell the story. I think that there's a way to go out there and do it. And if people just keep their mind open and give it a chance before they write it off automatically, then I think they would see that too. There was an instance last WrestleCon weekend, I believe. Yeah, last year, WrestleCon weekend. Impact show, I wrestled a guy. I wrestled Joey Ryan. And a lot of people look at Joey and put him in a box. They don't see what an amazing wrestler he really is. When you strip his character away, Joey is one of the best wrestlers I have ever seen. And if I tell him that, he'll blush a little bit, but he is. His basics are amazing. The way that he moves in the ring is incredible. And I remember when we came back to the locker room, Santino Marella came up to me and he said, look, I wasn't all for this. I didn't like intergender wrestling. I just wasn't for it. But after watching that, I understand. And I get it. And for him to keep his mind open and to give that a chance, he saw that too. And I think if other people did that without just, I hate to say stay in the old school mindset, but take your mind out of a box. Wrestling is whatever we want it to be. There's so many different styles. And we have the freedom to go out there and to create.
Awesome. That's the one thing.
Just to add on to it, sorry.
No,
I find it very empowering. I find it, in a world where we're told it's a man's world, a woman isn't as strong as, a woman isn't as good as sometimes a man, to go out there and to show that, no, we are athletes and we are strong women. I'm surrounded by strong women. Jeanie Buss is one of the strongest women I know, and she looks at it a little bit the same way, I believe. That if we can go out there and empower someone to become great at whatever they love to do, then we have accomplished something. And I have that vision. I want other women to feel empowered if they watch me, to feel motivated, inspired, to know that whether it's pro wrestling or not, whatever the hell it is in life, whatever you love to do, whether it's in high school, Block B, whether if it's your after-school program or your sport or, you're writing an essay, your job after school or whatever it is, whatever the hell it is, go and become great at it if you're passionate about it.
Awesome. That's the one thing that you and Sami Callihan seem to have in common, that you don't view it as intergender wrestling, you just view it as pro wrestling. And you're starting to make me a believer, I'll say that.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Tessa, Scott from TV Insider again. One of the things that is great about, this trailblazing moment for you is the fact that you're 24 years old. I mean, you've been in this business for a couple years now. I'm just curious, you touched on it a little bit as far as an in-ring performer, but as a person, within the wrestling business, you have to learn kind of how to have thick skin, and you can go through the ups and the ebbs and flows of being a wrestler. How do you think you've grown as a person as far as when it comes to things that we don't see in the ring? I mean, besides what we see in the ring, like behind the scenes and comes to travel and dealing with different personalities in the locker room. Just how do you feel that you kind of have grown, or is there a moment for you when you were coming up that you said, okay, I'm feeling this way or I'm acting this way, I need to make a change for myself?
This isn't a business for the timid. It's not a business for the meek. It's not a business for the too thin-skinned. And I've been tested in this life, in this journey, in this sport. And one thing that my dad always tells me is that I've graduated from the school of hard knocks. And, I've given some, I've taken some, but one thing that I've done is I've never quit. And through this whole journey, through the past 6 years of my career, and, I've grown a lot as a person. I'm not the same person that I was 6 years ago. I'm not the same person that I was 3 years ago. I'm not the same person that I was last year. You grow and you experience life, and you take those experiences and, your fumbles and your wins and your losses, and you use them as fuel to become the best version of yourself possible. One thing that I've really learned is to show respect to people even when they don't deserve it, not as a reflection of their character, but a reflection of my own. I want more than anything, and over the course of my career, I've really, really focused on this in my head. I want to become the best Tessa Blanchard possible. That way, if someone else watches me, if someone else can look at me in the ring, they can go and become great at whatever they do. I've said it a few times, so I might be repeating myself, but nobody can kill your dreams. The world, every single day when you wake up, the world's going to ask you who you are. And if you don't have a strong idea of that, through the money and the fame and, the TVs and all the social media and, people say nice things about you, people say bad things about you, people are always going to have something to say. You've got to have the mental strength to know in your heart who you are. And if you don't know that, then the world's going to come at you and the world's going to tell you who you are. And I am a strong believer, and I have the strength in my mind to know that I am stronger than that, and that the world can't take away who I am because the world didn't give it to me. And that goes for everyone. The world can't take away your dreams. It can't tell you who you are because it didn't give it to you. And I think that's one thing that I've really, really focused on over the past few years, and grown as a woman, grown as an athlete, grown as a performer, grown as a sister, grown as a daughter, and hopefully grown as a leader.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Well, media, I appreciate your time very much. We have one final question that did come in to my email. And Tessa, if I can ask you this. It came in, and the question is about the magic moment as you walked back up the aisle at Hard to Kill, and you were greeted, Scott D'Amore, Tommy Dreamer, TJP, and a bunch of the Impact wrestlers and staff. Your emotions carrying the championship belt.
I remember being in the ring, Ross, and after I won the belt, I looked at Brandon Toll, the referee, and I said, "We did it. We did it." And It's because we did it. It was something that at Slammiversary, I came up short. At Bound for Glory, I came up short. At Hard to Kill, not this time. Third time's the charm. My mom, my sisters, my brother, they all got in the ring, and they just were full of emotion, and it was really special for me. I didn't know, though, that when I would turn around that the better half of the locker room and D'Lo and Tommy and Gail were all standing up there, and it kind of just took me back for a second, because these are all people who have poured into my life over the past year and a half or 2 years that I've been at Impact, and they've kind of mentored me, and I've taken their advice and their guidance and used it to hopefully become a better athlete, become a better person, to become a better champion. But that's a moment I'm never going to forget. That's like one of those moments that they talk about in your career where that's the moment you remember. I was filled with so much emotion. To share it with my family, to share it with the locker room, to be the champion, to be the face of the company. It's what we all want to achieve. We all want to get there. We all want to be at the top of the mountain. And to know that I came out on top, I came out as the world champion, I achieved that. All the hard work, all the late nights, all the training sessions, all the wins, the losses, the mess-ups, the injuries, all of it, it's been for something. I didn't tell people this. I didn't go public about it, but 5 weeks, 4.5, 5 weeks before that match, I had knee surgery, and I went out there 125% and gave my all, and I came out the world champion.
Alrighty, Tessa.